biologist at the University of Chicago named James Shapiro who studied this phenomenon very carefully, and he talks about the cell's adaptive capacities under algorithmic control. There are literally if-then subroutines that are at work. You get if we get a colder climate, then trigger, then a cascade of signals goes to the genome, and it triggers the expression of a gene, or probably a whole suite of genes that will help the organism respond to that environmental challenge. If some other contingency arises, that triggers another cascade of signals and a different expression of genes or combinations thereof. So it's all pre-programmed, and that, of course, raises the deeper and more fundamental question of where does that programming come from? Absolutely. Let me, and building off of your question, let me just give just another sort of wrinkle on this case for ID. I have a colleague that retired from Microsoft for a couple of years to work with us in Redmond at our lab, at the Biologic Institute. We have a lab under that title. And he would say he retired from Microsoft means I think he was about 38 at the time, okay? And he came to work with us. He was an elite-level Microsoft programmer, one of their top 100 guys in the company. And he wrote 10,000 lines of code for us, simulating what's called gene expression, what I showed you in that animation clip. And what's going on in gene expression is you have information in DNA, but you also have a whole complex information processing system that is being executed by protein complexes of various kinds. Now, my colleague walked into my office one day and threw a book on my desk called Design Patterns. It's apparently a standard manual for software engineers. And when he threw the book on my table, he says, I get an eerie feeling that someone figured this out before us. And I said, what do you mean? He explained to me first what a design pattern is. It's a term of art in software engineering for a functional logic, a functional solution to a particular kind of problem, particularly a problem in information processing. Then he said, we have, what I'm discovering as I'm learning molecular biology from your scientists, is that all the same design patterns are at work in the information processing system that's at work inside the cell, as we have recently devised in modern digital computing to work inside a computer environment. And then he listed some. I didn't even know this, but he said, did you know that there's a hierarchical filing system inside the genome that, where you have files within folders, folders within superfolders, folders with superfolders within super-duper folders, just like we use on the laptop computer, the desktop. There's a spell check, something that is functioning to do error correction when you have incomplete, inaccurate replication of information to restore the fidelity of the original sequence. There's nested coding of information embedded in other informational sequences, dual messaging. He went and listed all these functional design patterns at work in the cell, and then said, I get an eerie feeling that someone figured this out before us. And of course, that was to him an intuitive kind of connection, but for me, it actually underscores the logic of the case we're making for design. That was a very logical thing to conclude, because we know of only one kind of cause that has produced complex information processing systems with all those various design patterns, and that's, again, intelligent agents. So when we encounter that kind of an effect, it's logical to conclude the only known cause that produces that effect, again, intelligence. So the case for design actually gets deeper all the time as we learn that not just the molecular biology 101 I shared today, but all the things we're learning about the organization of the genome and the complexity of the information processing system. Yeah, it kind of gives you shivers, doesn't it, when you think about just how intricate this system is. Well, people often say complex, but it's an integrated complexity, the kind of complexity that engineers design.